Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when everything seems to intensify. Challenges grow stronger, doubts creep in, and obstacles appear almost out of nowhere. This is not coincidence. It is not a sign to retreat. It is confirmation that something within you is shifting. The enemy, whether external forces, negative thought patterns, or fear itself, knows that you are on the brink of something greater. And so, it fights harder, hoping to pull you back into old ways of being. But there is a truth far greater than any challenge you face. Nothing has power over you unless you give it power. Do not resist the moment you are in. Instead, embrace it fully. See through the illusions of fear and doubt. Stand in presence, in stillness, and in deep trust. The enemy only fights harder because it knows its time is running out. You are already winning. You are already free. And now, it is time to step fully into that truth. Just before a breakthrough, resistance always intensifies. This is a pattern seen not only in personal growth, but in nature, in history, and in spiritual awakening. The moment before transformation is often the most difficult, not because we are failing, but because something within us is shifting. The old patterns, the conditioned mind, and even external circumstances seem to push back harder when we are on the verge of stepping into a greater version of ourselves. Imagine a seed buried beneath the soil. It begins as something small, hidden in darkness. As it grows, it pushes against the earth, encountering resistance at every stage. The soil does not move aside willingly. The seed must break through. Yet this struggle is necessary for it to reach the light. If the seed mistook the resistance as a sign that it was not meant to grow, it would never emerge. But nature has no such doubts. It simply follows its course. Likewise, in our own lives, resistance often comes when we are closest to breakthrough. It may appear as external obstacles, unexpected difficulties, or inner doubts that suddenly seem louder than before. Many people mistake this resistance for failure. They assume that if things are getting harder, it must mean they are going in the wrong direction. But in reality, this is often a sign that real change is about to happen. The reason resistance intensifies before breakthrough is because the mind and the world around us tend to resist change. The human mind prefers familiarity, even if that familiarity is limiting. It clings to old habits, beliefs, and patterns because they feel safe. Even suffering, if it is familiar, can feel more comfortable than stepping into the unknown. So, the moment you decide to break free from these limitations, the old ways of thinking push back, like the earth resisting the seed breaking through. This resistance can take many forms. Sometimes it manifests as self-doubt. The mind questions, what if I am not ready? What if I fail? Other times, resistance shows up as external challenges. Things seem to go wrong, obstacles appear. People around you may not understand your journey. But rather than seeing these difficulties as signs to stop, one must recognize them as signals that something powerful is happening. The presence of resistance means that real growth is taking place. Think of a caterpillar inside a cocoon. Before it can transform into a butterfly, it must go through the struggle of breaking free. If someone were to cut the cocoon open too soon, the butterfly would not develop the strength it needs to fly. It is the resistance itself that prepares it for the next stage of life. Similarly, when we experience difficulty just before major change, it is often life's way of strengthening us for what is to come. The key is to remain present and not be deceived by the mind's fear. The mind will try to convince you that difficulty means you are failing. But difficulty is not failure. It is part of the process. The key to overcoming resistance is not to fight against it, but to see through it. When you recognize that resistance is simply a test, a necessary step before transformation, you no longer react with fear. Instead, you move forward with trust, knowing that beyond this challenge, something new is waiting. Breakthroughs are not comfortable. They require stepping beyond what is known, beyond what is easy. But every great transformation, whether in personal growth, spiritual awakening, or achieving a dream, follows this pattern. Resistance rises before a shift. The enemy of progress, whether it is fear, doubt, or external difficulty, becomes loudest just before it loses its power. The question is not whether resistance will come, but whether you will allow it to stop you. If you are facing obstacles, if doubt is louder than ever, if everything seems to be pushing against you, consider the possibility that you are on the verge of something greater. Instead of retreating, lean into the moment. Stay present. Trust that the resistance you feel is not a sign of failure, but of transformation. You are not being blocked, you are being prepared. And when you recognize this, nothing can hold you back. The true battle is not fought in the external world, but within the mind. Many people believe that their greatest struggles come from circumstances, other people, or forces beyond their control. But in reality, the biggest obstacles to success, peace, and transformation arise from within. The thoughts we entertain, the fears we cling to, and the beliefs we hold shape our reality more than any external event ever could. If we are to truly win in life, we must first understand that the mind itself can be the battlefield where victory or defeat is determined. From an early age, we are conditioned to think in certain ways. Society, family, and past experiences create patterns of thought that over time become automatic. Some of these patterns serve us, while others hold us back. The mind, if left unchecked, becomes a breeding ground for self-doubt, fear, and limitation. Thoughts arise that whisper, "You are not good enough," "You will fail," or "You are not ready." These are not truths, but conditioned responses, echoes of past fears and insecurities that try to keep us in familiar territory. Fear is one of the strongest forces the mind creates. It is designed to keep us safe, but more often than not, it keeps us small. When we are on the verge of stepping into something greater, fear intensifies. It convinces us to hesitate, to overthink, to retreat. It tells us stories about failure, rejection, and uncertainty. But fear itself is not real. It is a projection of the mind into the future, a scenario that has not yet happened. When we give fear too much attention, we allow it to dictate our actions, and in doing so, we stay trapped in the same cycles. Doubt is another enemy that arises in the mind. It is the voice that questions our abilities, our worth, and our potential. Doubt causes hesitation, and hesitation weakens momentum. Every great achievement, every moment of transformation requires moving beyond doubt. But doubt does not disappear on its own. It must be seen for what it is, just another thought, not an absolute truth. The key is not to fight doubt, but to recognize that it has no real power unless we believe in it. The past also plays a role in shaping the battlefield of the mind. Many people carry old wounds, past failures, and negative experiences that continue to influence their present reality. They see themselves through the lens of past mistakes or missed opportunities. But the past is not who we are. It is only a memory. The moment we stop identifying with past limitations, we free ourselves to step into a new reality. Holding on to past pain or failure only strengthens the enemy within, reinforcing the belief that we are not capable of change. Awareness is the key to overcoming the struggles of the mind. The moment we become aware of a negative thought, a fear-based reaction, or a limiting belief, we create space between ourselves and that thought. In that space, we have a choice to believe it or to let it go. This is why presence is so powerful. When we are fully present, we are no longer controlled by old patterns. We see thoughts as they arise, but we do not become them. We recognize that fear is just a passing sensation, doubt is just a voice, and the past is just a memory. When we understand that the real enemy is not outside of us, but within, we gain power. Instead of blaming circumstances or external challenges, we turn inward and take responsibility for our own minds. This does not mean suppressing thoughts or fighting against them. It means observing them, questioning them, and choosing to act from a place of truth rather than conditioned fear. The real battle is won when we no longer react unconsciously to old patterns, but instead respond with awareness and clarity. Victory does not come from controlling the external world, but from mastering the mind. Once we see through the illusions of fear and doubt, we realize that nothing was ever holding us back except our own thoughts. The enemy only has power when we give it attention. But the moment we step beyond the mind's limitations, we see reality for what it truly is. It's open, limitless, and full of possibility. The battlefield dissolves, and what remains is freedom. Presence is the greatest weapon you have in overcoming fear, doubt, and resistance. It is not an external tool or something you must acquire. It is already within you. Yet many people live disconnected from it, caught in the illusions created by the mind. They are trapped in the past, reliving old wounds, or lost in thoughts about the future, consumed by worries of what might go wrong. In this state, they are not truly living, but merely reacting. However, the moment one becomes fully present, the power of fear and negativity begins to dissolve. The mind loses its grip, and reality is seen clearly. This is where true victory begins. Fear and doubt thrive in the mind's projections. When a person worries, they are not reacting to the present moment, but to an imagined future. When they dwell in regret, they are engaging with a past that no longer exists. Neither of these states are real, yet they shape emotions, decisions, and actions. Presence, on the other hand, brings awareness to what is happening right now. In the now, there is no space for fear to survive. When you are fully here, fully aware, fear is seen for what it is, just a passing thought, not a reality. Negativity also depends on unconscious thought patterns. People who constantly feel trapped in negative emotions are often unaware of how much their thinking fuels those emotions. They believe that life is happening to them, that circumstances are the cause of their suffering. But suffering is rarely caused by external situations alone. More often, it is the mind's resistance to what is happening that creates pain. Presence allows one to see this resistance and dissolve it. The moment you stop mentally fighting reality, peace begins to emerge. Consider a person walking through a storm. If they resist the rain, if they complain about how wet and cold it is, their suffering increases. But if they accept the rain as part of the experience, they move through it with greater ease. The storm does not change, but their relationship to it does. This is the power of presence. It does not mean problems disappear, but it allows you to engage with them from a place of clarity rather than reaction. When you are present, you begin to see how often the mind creates unnecessary suffering. You notice the endless stream of thoughts, the mental stories, the imagined scenarios that never actually happen. In this awareness, you stop identifying with these thoughts. You realize that you are not your mind. You are the observer of the mind. This shift is profound. The moment you stop identifying with thoughts, their power weakens. Fear, doubt, and negativity no longer control you. You can acknowledge them without being consumed by them. Presence also creates a deep sense of inner strength. When you are no longer controlled by automatic reactions, you respond to life from a place of stillness. You stop wasting energy on worry and resistance. Instead, you focus on what is real, on what can be done in this moment. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. You realize that strength does not come from force or struggle, but from awareness and acceptance of what is. The enemy, whether it is external opposition or internal negativity, loses power when faced with presence. Fear cannot exist in the now. Doubt dissolves when observed with awareness. Negativity fades when you stop feeding it with unconscious reactions. Presence is the weapon that does not fight but simply reveals the truth. You are already free. The battle you thought you were fighting was never real to begin with. It was only a distraction of the mind. And now, as you stand in the present moment, you see clearly that you were never losing, you were awakening. Life is not meant to be fought against. It is meant to be lived in harmony with. The more we resist, the more we suffer. But when we surrender to the flow of life, when we trust the process rather than fight against it, we step into a deep, unshakable peace. This is not the kind of surrender that means giving up or becoming passive. It is an inner surrender, one that recognizes that everything happening is part of a greater unfolding, even the challenges we face. Many people go through life believing that their struggles are proof that something is wrong, that life is against them, or that they are being held back. But what if struggle itself is not the problem? What if resistance to struggle is what causes suffering? The mind naturally wants to control, to predict, to shape the future in a way that feels safe. But life does not work this way. It is unpredictable, ever-changing, and full of moments beyond our control. The more we resist what is, the more we create conflict within ourselves. Think of a river flowing downstream. Water does not resist obstacles. It moves around them, over them, or through them. A person who resists life is like someone trying to swim upstream, exhausting themselves against the current. But the moment they stop fighting and instead allow the river to carry them, they move with ease. This is the essence of surrender. Not passivity, but deep trust in the natural flow of life. Difficult moments, challenges, and even failures are not barriers. They are part of the process. They arise to teach, to strengthen, to refine. When faced with hardship, the mind often reacts with fear or frustration, asking, "Why is this happening to me?" But the better question is, what is this teaching me? Every moment, even the difficult ones, carries an opportunity for growth. The difference between those who feel stuck and those who evolve is how they respond to these moments. Surrendering to the flow of life does not mean accepting everything without action. It means responding rather than reacting. It means seeing what is without mental resistance and choosing the best course of action from a place of clarity rather than fear. When you surrender, you do not become weak. You become strong because you are no longer wasting energy on internal conflict. You accept the present moment as it is, without judgment, and from that place of acceptance, real change can happen. Fear often keeps people from surrendering. The mind clings to the illusion of control, believing that if it lets go, everything will fall apart. But true control comes not from force, but from alignment. When you align with the flow of life, when you trust the process, you move with an ease that is impossible to experience when trapped in resistance. The energy once wasted on worry and struggle is now available for creativity, for wisdom, for action that is rooted in presence rather than fear. Life is constantly guiding us. The struggles we face are not punishments. They are invitations to awaken, to grow, to evolve. What seems like an obstacle may be the very thing that leads to a breakthrough. When we surrender, we no longer see life as something to fight against, but as something to move with. This does not mean challenges disappear. It means we face them from a place of peace rather than resistance. In the end, surrendering to the flow of life is about trust. Trust that what is happening is leading you somewhere meaningful. Trust that even the difficulties are serving a purpose. Trust that the wisdom of life is greater than the fears of the mind. The enemy, the doubts, the struggles, the fears, only fights harder when it senses that you are about to break free. But when you surrender, you realize that there was never anything to fight against. The battle was only an illusion. You were never losing, you were only resisting. And now, as you let go, you step fully into your power. The journey toward victory is not about defeating an external enemy, but about overcoming the limitations of the mind. The struggles, the doubts, and the resistance you face are not signs of failure. They are indicators that you are on the verge of something greater. Just before transformation, the enemy, whether external challenges or internal fears, fights the hardest. But this resistance is not a barrier. It is part of the process. You have seen how the battlefield exists within the mind, how fear and doubt try to hold you back, and how presence is the key to overcoming these forces. You have learned that surrender is not weakness, but strength, the ability to trust life rather than fight against it. When you stop resisting, when you let go of fear and align with the present moment, you realize that nothing was ever truly holding you back. The enemy only has power when you believe in its illusions. But now you see through them. You recognize that the struggles you face are not here to stop you, but to prepare you. The more present you become, the less control fear has over you. The more you surrender to the flow of life, the stronger you become. The battle is won not by force, but by awareness. And so, as you move forward, remember this: you are not losing. You are awakening. The obstacles before you are not walls, but stepping stones. The doubt you feel is not truth, but a fading echo of an old self. Trust the process, stay present, and surrender to the unfolding of life. Victory is not ahead of you. It is already within you. Now, step forward and claim it.